Hello guys and welcome to another edition of Rage Against the Dice. Today we're starting the first in a new series which is called My Favourite Edition of. And as you can see on the screen, today we're covering Warhammer Fantasy Battles. You may have also noticed that in the title actually, so yeah, it wasn't a surprise for you. But my favourite edition is 7th edition. So, Warhammer Fantasy Battle 7th edition was released in 2006. And it was the active version of Warhammer until 8th edition was released in the back half of 2010. 7th edition was a really interesting one. It came with a hardback rulebook, as it always previously did, but it also came with the mini paper rulebook, which you got in the Battle for Skull Pass box, which is what you can see on the screen there. The set came with 100 plus miniatures, and it was dwarves against goblins. And it had a really cool treasure pony as well. Anybody who played Fantasy from that edition will completely understand what I mean. Treasure pony for the win. Some of the models were beautiful in that set. I mean, the Goblin Shaman or Goblin Leader, I can't remember which. I think it was a Goblin Shaman holding a squig. It's kind of here. Was absolutely beautiful model. And the Troll was pretty cool as well. I really liked Skull Pass. It was an absolutely fantastic box set, especially for the time period. I think it was like £50, £40-50, and you got so many models. 2 really good starter armies with it. You couldn't really go wrong. So the hardback book itself came with extra artwork and a pretty cool expansion of the lore. But other than that, it was the same sort of rule book as the smaller version. Exact same rules, everything like Haunted Dryer as always. So yes, it wasn't like a basic set of rules and then expanded in the bigger book. Either one gave you everything you needed to learn the rules of the main game. Obviously not the armies, because Games Workshop was Games Workshop, and they've always wanted you to buy army books separately from sort of way back. Obviously not in the start, but from certainly 40k, why 2nd edition came with books, and 3rd or 4th fantasy maybe. Somebody could probably drop that in the comments below and improve my knowledge, because obviously before my time I got into Warhammer Games Workshop in general in sort of 1991, 1992, give or take the odd month either way, I can't remember. But yeah, that's by the by. So 7th edition saw new army books for Orcs and Goblins first, then Empire, then High Elves, which were utter filth. Always strikes first, extra bolt throwers to everyone else. With spearmen that could fight in 3 ranks. Yeah. Then it was Demons of Chaos, which was interesting because Demons of Chaos got a 40k and a fantasy release at the same time. You had Vampire Counts, and Vampire Counts was really cool because it got rid of the bloodline system, which a lot of people didn't like. But I was a big fan of, because it gave you something new. It gave you the ability to create your own vampire lords. Now, I think it was like 175 points for a basic lord and 100 points for a basic normal vampire. I think it's been, a good 7-8 years since I toobled up a vampire. But that's what you did. You then could spend X amount of points, 100 or 50 points, on taking vampire traits. So you could create these interesting and unique vampires. Obviously, a lot of people went to Warseer and places like that, and they're like, I need help getting the best vampire possible. And everybody turned up with the same vampire. Those guys sucked. But yeah, you could come up with some really interesting, curious combinations. And they would work, obviously, within your army in different ways. So depending on what units you put them in and things like that, they could really benefit from certain things. I thought that was really cool. And then Dark Elves finally got some love. Now, the Dark Elves, they hadn't had a love in a long time. Their models weren't particularly good. Or some of them weren't. Let's not attack them fully, because they've still got some of those same models of spearmen and crossbowmen and stuff. What they did get was some new, sleeker, cold ones that looked much more like the kind of velociraptors that you would see in Jurassic Park than the fat, slobbering dinosaurs they used to have. They fit more with the Dark Elves and the look. They had the slim, slender elves, slim, slender, cold ones. It was a really big improvement. It was much needed. Then Warriors of Chaos. Then Lizard Men, and they got a load of new plastic kits and some other much needed stuff. And then we got Skaven, but Skaven were much more geared, in my personal opinion, ready for 8th edition, because they'd started work on 8th edition, obviously, by the time Skaven were released in the sort of winter time. I think it was October, November, off the top of my head anyway. And then the final book came in February of 2010, and that was Beastmen. And that added those beautiful Minotaur models that we've got now, and a load of really, really other cool stuff. 7th edition was fantastic because it built on what 5th and 6th had already done. I think it was 5th that brought in magic as dice instead of just cards. Off the top of my head, I believe that to be the case. And then 6th obviously built on those type of things, and then 7th built on that further. And for me, it was kind of the pinnacle of Warhammer gaming. 8th edition brought you things like hordes and stuff, which were brilliant in theory, but in actual fact was just a cash cow for Games Workshop. Games Workshop said, hey look, now your units can be bigger and you get bonuses for doing so. So things like Skaven and stuff, suddenly a horde army was essential. However, they then put the prices of those plastic box sets up, or in some cases they broke them for 20 down to a box of 10 for the same price. So it ended up costing a lot to get into fantasy for 8th edition, which I feel was one of the big killers of it. Not the only, but one of the big killers. So that being said, 7th edition, as I said, for me was one of the strongest editions rules-wise. However, my love for it was purely from a fun perspective. And I know you may have heard me joke or say that, and it's something I truly believe in, that facts override feelings. However, my love of Final Fantasy, I do love Final Fantasy, but no, my love of Warhammer Fantasy 7th edition was purely rooted in what was going on in my life and those games at that point in time. So I had some of the best gaming experiences of my life playing Warhammer 7th edition, playing things like 10,000 plus point battles into the wee hours with, some of my closest friends, custom making vampire lords, as I mentioned earlier, or planning Skaven hordes that took up so much of my time in possibly the best way you could. Like, list building in 7th was really, really fun, sitting there. We didn't have a million apps and stuff like that, so it would just be pen, paper, pencil maybe, your army book, and you would sit and you could spend a good 3 or 4 hours writing a really, really filth list, or a very themed list, or thematic, or however you wanted to tool up. There was, a lot of creative choice, and that was pretty awesome. Like, some of the most fun I had with 7th edition was trying to come up with something creative, original, and within point limits that could thwart, even my closest friends. Yeah, some of the lists we wrote against each other were horrible. So there was like this 12-month period of my life where things weren't going so well, maybe in other aspects of my life, and we all have it. And this isn't a sob story. You don't need to get out tiny little violins or anything like that. We all have those periods of life where maybe certain other aspects, whether it be job or relationships or other things, aren't going so well. But for me, playing 7th edition with those people at that point in time was somewhat of a salvation for me. And I know it sounds really cheesy and corny, and you're probably smashing that dislike button at this point in time because of it. But no, I genuinely believe that the people you play with and the particular games you can play, especially if it's one you enjoy, really can have an impact. And when other things in my life weren't going particularly brilliantly, for one reason or another, some of my own doing, some of other people's doing, this is your life, stepping in and playing these epic battles into the stupidly late hours, and then, plotting in, because I worked for Games Workshop at the time, and so we would, the Games Workshop would close at 6 p.m, and I'd been there since, 9:30, 9 o'clock sometimes, on a weekend even earlier, and we'd finish at 6. Myself, my manager, a couple of our friends, like a really tight-knit group. There was 6 of us, and I'm not going to name names. If they're watching, they know who they are, and they know that even to this day I still vomit-inducing alert, but I still love those freaks. I always will. But at that point in time, closing the store at 6, starting a game of fantasy around at 8 o'clock and running till 2, 3 in the morning really did help me. So 7th edition was one I feel really, really strongly about. I had some of the best gaming experiences in my life, as I said. I also thought the rule system itself was really, really strong. And I feel it was the last time, Warhammer Fantasy Battle was truly great. I came from what was known as a veteran store, so we had more old-time customers than new footfall. And that's not a bad thing per se. Obviously, different stores are different. But so ours, we had a really, really big fantasy community. And I think that helped as well. Because previously, before I worked at that particular store, I'd been in either as, I'd been in lots of 40k heavy stores where I went to uni and things like that, where I lived. Everybody played a lot of 40k and things like that. So to move to a place where it was very, very fantasy centric meant I got a lot of games in. I mean, I can say to this day, and this includes things like Blood Bowl, Necromunda, D&D, things that I've done since I was a very, very young child. I've probably played more games of 7th edition than I have of anything else. So I'm going to end it on that note, saying that the reason I love 7th edition was because of everything. The rule set, the models that came in the starter set. I loved the inclusion of the smaller rulebook / bigger rulebook. Thought it was a genius idea. And then it said just the people and the games. And although it wasn't balanced at times, the High Elves, as I said, Ghost Dryer again. High Elves were particularly evil. In that edition, Dark Elves weren't much better with their eternal hatred of everything that didn't have pointy ears and wear black, and even some of them they didn't like, etc, etc. It wasn't good. And more importantly, Wood Elves didn't get any love, and they don't deserve love because they're scum. Sorry, my 2 friends I know who like Wood Elves, but you're both wrong. Wood Elves are wrong. Tree weirdos. But I'm gonna leave it there. So if you are interested in this series, that's absolutely cool. If you played Warhammer Fantasy like me and you have a particular favourite edition, pop that in the comments below. I know I said obviously I didn't like 8th in terms of I feel it was the downfall of Warhammer. That doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy the edition. I just felt that it needed a lot of work and it felt more like a cash grab than, an actual finished product. But if you liked it, if that's cool, let me know in the comments below. Next one is going to be Warhammer 40k, because that's the easiest one to transition into. My Games Workshop-y centric followers will probably have an opinion on that, but that's cool. So yeah, hit the like, because it obviously helps us show up in algorithms and crap like that. Apologise for crap. I should have said stuff. I'm overthinking it. But yeah, so if it's the first time you've ever come to our channel, feel very free to check out some of our other videos. We cover a diverse array of topics, all wargaming based, obviously. And yeah, like, subscribe, do the usuals. If you've got any Warhammer based groups or anything like that, any friends who'd be interested in this particular video or any of our other videos, please share them along, because it gets us a few more views, and that feeds Alan's ego basically. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you had a fond memories of 7th edition, and pray the dice gods hope they smile upon you. Take care.